Welcome back, everybody, to Lee's podcast. I'm your host, Lee Yang. I want to thank everybody that's listened to part 1 of your story. If you haven't already, please go back and take a listen to that. Well, welcome to part 2. Remember, if you like what you're listening to, please like, subscribe, share, and give it a thumbs up. All right, enjoy. What I want to ask is about your restaurant. Mm-hmm. All right, we kind of went back earlier about who we are.
Right.
Flows through everything we do.
Yes.
So update us on the restaurant. You were at Jisei. Obviously,
yes.
they're remodeling like that. And you know all the drama that's going on. We're not going to go through the drama. You can read it online.
Yes.
Are you going to go back? Are you going to go somewhere? Are you going to open up somewhere? Because I want our local listeners to know where you're at. Because I want to, obviously, I'm your cousin. And so I want everybody to support you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure you're Pabano. Girl, I love those. I think one of these days we have to have a session whenever I can get my camera in there.
Yeah.
Of you cooking.
I would love, my passion actually was not to start the deli. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make life easier for everybody. So when what my intention was to create sauce or recipes or rubs that will be multi-purpose, that people can use it in anything. So like my sauce for the popano and my fish, the catfish nuggets, did you know that you can use that same rub for like steamed meat?
Oh, no.
Baked meat, roast meat, and you can also use it in squirrels and deer.
Wait, are you selling this sauce?
Yeah, well, I make so much of it. Well, last year, 2 years ago, I make almost like 50 gallons. It's sitting in my freezer at home. But I do give it away. When people say they like it and that they would like some, I just give it away.
You gotta get compensated for it.
If people say, I want to buy it, then I say, well, you know what? I have a need for ministry. Can you give it so that to donate some money towards a ministry?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Then I would take it. But see, my purpose is not because I have not manufactured that. I won't sell it. In that regard.
Yes.
But how I make when I make it, and I know your father loves fish.
Yes.
So I will make a special batch. If it's non-spicy, when I make it for my father-in-law, I would save a batch for your dad also. I don't know if he ever finished the ones that I made for him.
You made him a batch of sauce?
I made him some too. Yeah.
I don't know because he lives with Kane, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, so when I make it for my father-in-law, and that's the same.
Yes.
And for then I would save your father some too.
Okay.
Because I know that your dad does not eat spicy.
He does not.
Yeah, so so the sauce that in that regards, that sauce is multi-purpose. And my dry rub that I make, depending on how you use it, if you like the way I make my beef, all you do is you just add oyster sauce, golden mountain seasoning, and mushroom soy sauce to that.
To your sauce.
To the powder, the rub.
Oh, yes.
Then what you do is you add a little bit of ginger and a little bit of...
Are you okay giving out your secrets?
Yes, because you know what? I love to teach people how to cook.
Okay.
And that's the purpose why I do that. But I will not tell them what's in my rub, but I can tell them what to add, because what I won't be manufacturing would be the dry rub.
I see.
But I want them to make it so that it serves multi-purpose.
Okay.
So if they add those components to it, then it becomes my rub for my beef. If they don't do that, then it becomes also some of the seasonings I use for my egg rolls. If they don't add anything to it and they want to do it for chicken, they just add soy sauce, a little bit of fish sauce, a little bit of water, and then ginger and ground lemongrass. Then it becomes base for them to soak the chicken and to grill the chicken.
Oh, like a marinade.
Yeah, marinade.
Yeah.
So it's very multifunctional. Then I have my pad thai sauce, which you can also use for pad thai, or you can also use it for pad see or you can use the pepper sauce that I make, and that's also great for tom yum and stir fry. So whatever sauce I make, they're multifunctional.
So your restaurant based off of the sauce, basically.
Yeah.
It makes it simple to operate a restaurant.
To everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want is, instead of spending, because, we grew up. One thing that my son Alex has tell us when we were doing the store and we were very busy. Growing up, my children, we always ate together as a family. But when we started the grocery store and we didn't eat together as much. And like he told me that he missed that gathering and that coming together to eat together.
The story is in Rhino.
Yes,
Okay.
and I realize how important it is for a family who eats together, because family who eats together stays together, just as family who pray together stays together, and that's so important. So I wanted to have young married couple like you guys, how you're so busy, just get something like that and just come in and get some meat or marinated the night before and it's ready to go, and you have more time to do other stuff, or you're not wasting so much money buying something that you can make yourself and feed your family, so just making it more economical, and teaching people how to live well.
Now, you don't have a physical location.
No.
Are you still selling? Or do you accept donations? Because I want to, if you're okay with it, I want to link, or I want to put your description in the bottom.
Yes,
if
I
you're
do.
willing, if you're okay with it, I'll put it in there. And whoever's interested, come on, everybody,
Yeah,
help
they
her out.
could. Yeah.
They can
Definitely.
come get some.
Yeah, they can come and get some, and my gallon, the 1 gallon actually makes a lot of fish.
Okay.
Because, you don't need to add anything to it. It's all well seasoned already.
Okay.
So don't add salt to it because you're going to make it too salty.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is just, it's so simple. I was telling my daughter-in-law, I said, I'm going to wait till Finley grows up and he's a little older. We're going to have to start a YouTube channel and
There you go.
teach him how to cook. And he's going to be my little sous chef, but.
Well, you should. Like cooking YouTube channels
Yeah.
will do so much better than these podcasts that I'm doing.
No, I'm sure your podcast is doing well.
There's no physical location. Are you going to have a physical location? Are there plans? I mean, you don't have to share. I mean,
my friend Brian, who owns Chu Hai.
No. Where is that?
It's on 74th and Hampton. Brian and us and Chu Hai has gone back so far. I remember when Brian's brother was in town, they started the nail salon not too far from where we were. And they would always come in, because Hmong people always have the stereotype that, why do you support other nationality when they don't support you?
Uh-huh.
But when we have Rhino, we have people from all walks of life. We have Africans, we have Jamaicans, we have Chinese, we have Thai people, we have Laotians, we have Vietnamese, we have Filipinos, we had, Hmong people, majority of all customers were like 85% Hmong. But we still have the 15% of other race, we have Koreans. And so when Brian's uncle sold Chu Hai to him, my husband and Brian became very good friends. So I know that Brian had bought that place right next to him and he's building right now. If Brian rebuilds that place and he's willing to lease it to me, I will probably lease it.
Okay.
But it will not be me that will be running it. I was talking to my daughter-in-law and my daughter, and they want to do something like that. The recipes will still remain the same.
Yeah.
I will be there on the weekends to help. Because I went back to Marquette and I went back to work at Marquette.
Oh, you did? Yes, that's right. Okay.
Because, one of my friends called me and she's also Hmong and she works in EOP and she says, "Are you back?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "That your name came up at the business meeting, right?" I'm like, "Really?"
Is that a good thing or a bad
thing? It's a good thing.
Okay.
And she goes, I said, "Yeah, I love Marquette." And she goes, "Marquette must have really loved you to call you out." But, Marquette has always been like...
Marquette University, not the high school.
No, Marquette University.
Just want to clarify.
Has always been like my second home away from my family, and they're wonderful people.
Good.
So I love it's like going back home and just being with family. So I'm very happy there.
Is there a timeline as to when this is going to happen? Or are you going to wait for, is it Brian?
It's Brian.
Brian to kind of fix up the building?
I think Brian's already starting construction on it. Yeah. So, depending on if my daughters and my son, my daughter-in-law or any of my kids wants to take up the business, they can. Otherwise, I will still do it, but I will not do the deli section.
Yeah.
I will do the sauce. And there will be patai sauce, there will be papaya sauce, kapon sauce.
So you're not selling any food products, you're just selling all the ingredients.
The sauce and teaching people how to make food. Yeah.
Now, where is this location, Yanda? Where is it again?
Brian's place is on 74th and Appleton Avenue.
74th.
Chu Hai.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Keep that in mind. I'll update everybody if it happens. You let me know, and I'll let my listeners know.
Sure.
All right. Now, you mentioned Rhino a few times.
Yes.
All right. I'm not sure if you want to indulge or share, but what happened? You share as much as you want to share. Okay?
Rhino. Okay. They always said never start business with your families, and it's very true.
Before I let you continue, Rhino was the largest Hmong owned grocery store in Milwaukee. Yep, at that time. Until specific produce or Hmong came up, and then Chusang.
Yeah.
You know, but so what happened?
It was a business venture with my husband and his brother and my brother-in-law, his wife, and us. But it just didn't go according to plan. Like people, it's just different. When people see money, people's perspective change. And it's always that same way. Is that when you start a business, with a pure heart and a pure goal, money does things, and greed changes people, and that's what happens. And it doesn't matter if it's a wife, if it's a spouse, eventually you're not going to see eye to eye either. And I think that's just what happened with us, and it was just a bad partnership that went very wrong.
How long did you guys have? Well, how long were you part of Rhino?
My children, my husband, my family, and my children, we gave 10 years of our lives to Rhino, and we walked away with nothing.
I remember having conversation with you or with your kids. That's hard. That's hard. All they knew.
That was all they knew.
They were there. Every time I go there, we used to live on the south side. Obviously, I live on the north side now, but we used to come up and all I see is your kids at the cash register.
Yeah.
Ringing us out. And your in-laws in the kitchen. In the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And
my father-in-law,
he just saying back there helping out.
And they were just helping. They helped us because they loved us. And
they didn't get paid?
No payment.
Okay.
He never accepted payments, because we allowed them to cook and to bring stuff. But even with Lanza saying, we asked that he don't help. But you know how Lanza saying is, he's very loving.
He is.
And very giving. He's a very selfless man. And, and that's one quality that I know about him. And I will forever remember both him and his wife is that when they give or when they do things, they give it. They're very selfless people, They give it their all. And you don't come across people who actually want to see you succeed. And when you find people like that, they make an impact on you through your whole life. And it changes how you look at people, and it changes how you see things. Because, you don't need to be surrounded by a lot of people in life. You just need a very few quality people that will make your life full. And, I thank God every day that we have that. And even with Uncle Van Linaya, my husband's youngest uncle, he gave a lot of his time to help us. And we barely can compensate him. Even my nieces, all my nieces, and my husband's sister's children, and my nieces and my nephew, my sister Kate's kids. Those are families that will come through to you, and will come forth to you. And we even have families that volunteer, like Lonalu to Crystal. She came and she helped us for a while. Just families that really, truly loves you and cares for you and truly wants you to succeed. You don't see many people like that. And when you have people like that, you cannot help but be grateful that God puts people like that in your lives, And so, even when Rhino did not work out and we were out of business, when Rhino did not work out, my husband actually went into depression for 5 years.
You told me. I remember having a conversation. It was really hard on him.
I was so worried that when I come home, my husband was going to either hung himself or kill himself. I worried so much that, what got me through that dark 5 years was, one thing that got me through it was my faith. And one thing that got me through it was I knew that my mother never stopped praying. And, at that time, Pastor Jizu was also a pastor. He became a pastor at New Hope. And he was very close with my family and my husband, too, because he was my husband's mentor when they started cheaping restaurants together. So he became a pastor, and he also nurtured my husband. And him and his wife, they pray faithfully for our family. And we were without so much, but we were so blessed. I don't know how people can understand that.
How did you guys get through it, right?
Yeah, how did we get through it? But, we did not have money, actually, financially.
But even when you guys did the restaurant, on the grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh.
We did not, because, my husband was out of it. So, a lot of, people always say that, oh, Otalama, you have to be so wealthy, because one thing I tell people, and, I was very honest with a lot of grocery store owners, is that when you understand that when you buy a case, your commission is only 35% from that case. So if you have 2 cans that came and they're dented, your 35% drops, you see?
Yeah.
But, we were very blessed because God was faithful and God blessed our business because, like I say, in the beginning when we started out, it was pure, and then eventually it turned into greed and it didn't go according to what God's plans were for our lives. And so when we broke apart, my brother-in-law and his wife also broke apart, so there was so much brokenness in both our lives, that nothing in money can't fill, and my husband went through depression for 5 years, and at that time I just say, you know what, I'm gonna let him do what he wants to do. I need him to come through, and I need him to pull through because I am not gonna nag at him, or I'm not gonna say things that will hurt him or will make him feel like he's unworthy. I will let him do what he needs to do to get through it, and I will pray for him. And I will have people pray for him. I have families that pray for him, friends, very close circle of friends that pray for him, that pray for us. And
so you weren't the wife like, you got to go to work.
No.
Go find a job. Go do something. Take your time because you knew what he was going through.
Yeah, I knew what he was going through. And if he wanted to go to Nisita every day to fish, I would let him go to Nisita every day to fish. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to say, and that time gas was expensive. It was like $3 something, mm-hmm. And he was driving this huge truck. And so it was like $60, and it would just go to Nisita, come back, and 2 days later it would be, but I say, you know what, I'm going to let him do what he needs to do because it was better that he came out of it than to lose him, Mm-hmm. And so he went through it for 5 years before he finally went to work again.
Okay.
And when he decided one morning that he was going to go to work, I say, hallelujah, thank God, for answer prayer. My father was a very wise man, actually. You know how they always says that when Hmong daughters gets married, people always try to give them teaching or lessons in life. This is what my father taught me. My mother didn't say anything. Yeah. Which was very ironic because usually the mother says things to the daughter. Well, I remember my father's exact word. He says, daughter, from this day forward, you will start your new life. It doesn't matter what circumstances you go through in life. Always know that you have to stay close to your husband. Even when he makes you suffer, love him. Even when he's not good to him, be good to him. Even when he doesn't deserve to eat, feed him. Even when he doesn't deserve to be clothed. Because when you do good to him, your goodness will bring him to you. And he will never want to leave you because you have that goodness in you.
Yes.
And you know what? That was the only thing I took away from my father all my life. Even when my husband and we argue, I would cook, and I would leave him food. One thing in life that I never like to do is I never like to eat and feed leftover to my husband. When I cook, I always save the meat, the food that I cooked, I set that aside if he's not eating with us. So I don't like the fact that, when you eat, everybody takes a spoon, dip into it, and then he gets the leftover. I never did that with my husband because that's not right. Because I think that respect goes so much farther, and because he is the head and he is my husband, that I should always feed him first and be respectful to him, even when he's not eating with us. Because when we were at the store, we were also busy. But when I cook a meal, I will always make sure that I save his portion for him.
Okay.
That no one touches it or dips into it,
Let's take a segment off of that because we're talking about your husband, mm-hmm. and we kind of talked about it. If you're okay in sharing, what happened to him? To those that obviously know and don't know, and maybe do know but don't know much of the details.
My husband we all actually contracted COVID.
Last year?
Yeah, June of 2020. It's almost going to be 2 years.
Oh, not last year, but the year
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yeah.
When it was new.
Yeah, when it was new. So my husband contracted COVID, and when we found out that we have contracted COVID from my husband's sister and their family, he had that day, that Tuesday, he had taken my mother-in-law. We were all at the deli. He had taken my husband. He loves to farm. And he's one of those particular person, okay? When he farms, his land is weed free. That's him.
Yeah.
So he's very hardworking. So that day he went to the farm with my mother-in-law, and when we did this, my husband, he has always grow things for me. Like if I wanted 500 bell peppers, I would be at the revival because I was the president of Honwa. So I would be out in Lake Tahoe, Carlinville, or Minnesota somewhere for the Memorial Weekend, and that was the planting seasons where we plant all our bell peppers and our watermelons, and he would be out there planting my 500 red bell pepper plant or my 25 watermelon, or garlics for me, or shallots for me, or peppers for me, because I want to tell people that love, it's not just I love you or you love me. You have to see love full circle.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot see just love straight ahead, because when you look at love and marriage just straight ahead, you lose sight of all the beautiful things that is around, like through your hardship,
mm-hmm.
through life, because I realized that, my life was not all that great, but it was a beautiful life because I am who I am because my husband complete me,
Mm-hmm.
He had gone farming that day, and he told me that he had drank 2 Monsters. So for any of you children who likes to drink energy drinks, please stop. It's not healthy. And my husband drank 2 Monster drinks. And then when he came home, he says after he finished his second one, he realized that he started having like tingling sensation. So when he got home, I say, hey, your sister doesn't feel well, and neither does her youngest daughter. I think we should all go get tested, And I said, they got tested and she's positive. And I say, we should go test it. So I informed Chiseng, management that, we were going to clean up, and we were going to deep clean the kitchen, and we were going to throw away all the food that we cooked away.
Did you guys close the store down?
Yeah, we actually we deep cleaned the store twice before we left.
Okay.
We threw away all the stuff that we cooked. Or I didn't throw it away. We gave it to all the people who was there. Anything that was going to spoil, we either threw it away or we froze it. And I told my son, Alexander came, and he actually helped me deep clean
the
kitchen twice. We left it, and I said, we will not be coming back until we know that we don't have COVID. Then my husband went and got tested that Tuesday when he went, and then by Wednesday, Alex and I went and got tested. Well, his symptoms after he drank that, and he was telling me how he started
tingling,
his symptoms actually started Wednesday night. It was so bad that his fever was full blown, and how COVID has so many symptoms. My husband had almost all of those symptoms.
Wow.
And so we went and we got some medication for him. And, one thing in life is, my husband is stubborn. I think as most men are. Not every man, let me tell you. But, a lot of times people tend to believe other people that are older more than someone who's younger, because they always feel that, you're younger, you probably don't see as far. So some of his cousins call, and I know a lot of young Hmong people, and I'm sure they saw this within their own family, is that they believe that if you drink urine, it will cure you.
Yes, I heard that.
And I
too.
told my husband, I say, you know what, that's sickening. Why would you drink urine? You're filtering bacteria out, and if it's COVID, why would you put it back in your system?
Correct.
And at that time we all had it. So our house is a triplex. So there's 2 bedrooms upstairs. There's on each side. So we have 4 bedrooms upstairs. There's 4 bedrooms downstairs. And then there was the living room. So my husband quarantined in our bedroom. Christina was in her. Jennifer was in hers. My father-in-law was in, my mother-in-law in theirs. So my mother-in-law quarantined in the living room. So I, in turn, went upstairs to quarantine with Alex because he's got a spare bedroom. And then Yang and Paul and Finley were in their unit. Then my husband just started going downhill, and, I would come in to check up on him every 2 hours. I would come and wipe him because he was sweating and he was having a fever.
He was sweating, but he still had the fever.
Yeah, he's still having the fever.
It was like 104. It was
just very high, like 103, 104. And I would wipe him down with like alcohol. Alcohol would cool him off. And I would alternate that with a warm cloth. And I went back upstairs. I gave him some medication, and he will like at 2 in the morning, 2:30. I came back downstairs and I saw him come out of the bathroom, and I said, please don't tell me you drink your urine. So you know what he said to me?
What?
He says, it's my urine. Why do you care?
That is stubborn, isn't it?
Yeah. And I looked at my father-in-law, and he's drinking his too. And I'm like, what the heck? You know, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know, and, yeah. And I say, don't do that. And he says, you know, it's my body, you know.
Because he's believing someone else.
Because everybody, all the OGs were saying they drink the urine and they got better. You know how they have that YouTube, channel that went out? Yeah. There must have been like 100-something view on that, 100,000 view on that.
And that's what their misinformation.
Yeah,
basically,
and
right?
He's got a cousin who claimed that she also drank her urine and she got better. So I said, please don't tell me that you drink that. And so I looked at my mother-in-law and I said, Mom, don't tell me you're drinking the urine too. And she looked at me and she says, no. And I said, Mom, please don't drink the urine. I don't care if Dad and Young drinks it, but don't drink the urine if you haven't drank it. And so, you know, he started going downhill fast after that.
Wait. Okay, give me a timeline when he first contracted from when you guys...
When he first contracted it, it was Wednesday, the 30th.
To the point of when he was drinking urine. It's like a few days? Or
yeah, like the third day or something like that.
And then from there, he started going downhill.
Yes, and then by his fifth days, so he actually got COVID. He got his symptoms that was Wednesday night. You know, Wednesday in the afternoon or in the evening. And then by Tuesday morning or Wednesday, so a week in between, he started to go downhill very fast and he couldn't breathe. And so I asked him, he says, you know, he goes, can you buy me a ventilator? And I said, they don't sell ventilator. I said, are you okay? You know, do you need to go to the doctor? And, you know, one thing that I think what predicaments we were in also is looking at the time that we were, you know, at that time I went to open the Deli. My insurance was through Marquette. Mm-hmm. And so the doctor that we had was a doctor I have known through her whole career. I have known this doctor since she was a resident. And that was like 26 years that I have had this relationship with her. And she's been my doctor almost that long. Well, when we went and changed to my husband's insurance, we couldn't go to her anymore. And my husband was supposed to go and see a new doctor. And the appointment was set for after July 4th, mm-hmm. but he got sick before that. And because he didn't have that new relationship with the doctor, he decided that he was going to go to Freighter. You know, and one thing that's very important with this whole pandemic, and I tell a lot of people, is please have a relationship with your doctor. If you don't see them at all, see them at least once a year for a healthy checkup. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's so important to build that relationship with them so they know who you are, that you are not just a number. And so my husband went to Freighter, and at that time, everything was full-blown. And because his new doctor didn't have privileges at Freighter, you know, he was not able to go see him. So he was under the care of an attending and the resident, you know, like group that was taking care of all the patients.
So basically he became a number.
He was a number. But the difference between my mother-in-law and my father-in-law and him was they went to Sinai where the doctor was in-house, the clinic. And they have that, the doctors that they see rotates. So one of the attending doctors in the clinic is always also an attending that watches the fellow geriatric there. Mm-hmm. So they have better control over them. And so my father-in-law actually went to the hospital twice and came home. My mother-in-law was also hospitalized and came home.
Once or twice?
Once.
Okay.
My husband went but never came out of it. See. And at that time we were more worried about my in-laws because they were both diabetic. And we were
and they're older, a lot older.
Much
obviously.
older.
Yeah.
They were one was 90, the other one was 89. You know, and my husband was only 56, you know. And so you never think that it would be him because all his life, you know, my husband's a very healthy person. He was barely ever sick. You know, so to lose him, I think it shook a whole entire Vang family.
How long was he at the hospital? He was in the ICU, COVID ICU unit.
He was in the COVID ICU unit for about almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
When he went in 2 weeks later, that was it.
That was it.
Oh, my goodness.
But, you know, one thing that I do realize coming out of it is that, when you have COVID, it's so important not to eat certain food. Like, don't stay away from like fried food, greasy food, things that are so over seasoned. You should eat a lot of brothy and warm food. And my husband didn't get that because the hospital was so overwhelmed. Even though we make food to take to him, the nurses couldn't come down and we couldn't take the food to him.
Oh, because everybody was quarantined. Yeah.
And I remember that his last meal, I had told him not to eat. I had cooked for him that night, and I said, do you want me to bring the food over to you? And he goes, no, I'm going to eat the hospital food. And I said, well, can you make sure you eat a bland diet? And then he calls me at about 8 o'clock and he goes, no, I didn't get to eat, so can you bring me food? And I said, well, I can bring you the food I cooked for you, that we were going to send you at 6. And he goes, no, I don't want to eat that. You need to bring me filet fish and French fries and a Coke. Yeah.
That's what you want.
Because, at that time he had gotten better.
Oh.
So his oxygen level had already gone back up. So he was like, this is what I want to eat. And I said, no, you cannot eat that. It's not good. And he's like, well, if you don't want to feed me that, then I'm not going to eat. So I called Jen and I said, your dad wants McDonald's. Can you just take him? And, I think that was a contributing factor to why he went downhill too, was because he ate that. And after he ate that, he called me at about, I want to say maybe midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I don't feel well. I have really bad heartburn. And I say, when did you eat your food? He says, they didn't get the food up here to me till 10:30. And I said, that was cold and hard.
Mm.
And I said, why did you eat it? He says, because I was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. And he says, I'm having really bad heartburn. I can't sleep. And, at that time he had gastric reflux. And you know how his lungs were already scarred. So when he had that gastric reflux where all the acid came up, it flowed into his lungs. And so when the nurse went in and she had given him some Tums, it didn't relieve anything. And then when he called me, and
that just made it worse.
It made it worse. And when he called me at 2, he says, I don't think I'm going to make it. I said, let us pray, let's pray together. Let's talk. And so we were talking, and, we were talking, and we talked for about a good 20 minutes. And I said, you just listen. And, let me talk and you listen. And then we were talking, we were praying. And then I said, do you feel better? He goes, yeah. And then I said, are you sure? He says, yeah. And I said, okay, then go sleep. Go to sleep and call me if you need anything. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to call the nursing station again, have her check up on him, and I call his nurse. And I say, I know you're very busy, but can you please take a look at my husband just to make sure that he's okay, because we just talked and he don't sound too good.
But he said he is.
He says he is. And she goes, yeah, I will check up on him and let you know. So about 30 minutes or 45 minutes later, I was still up, and she says, he's sleeping now. The doctor gave him something and he's asleep. And so the next day he just went downhill, and his heart started racing, and his breathing went back to abnormal, and he was back on the vent 100%, and his heart was racing, and they said that he's going like 100 miles an hour. If we didn't put him on the vent, we were going to lose him, And so I remember looking at him, and, I feel really, really bad, because this was like at 2 a.m, and we had a meeting with all his brothers, most of all his brothers. And Melissa couldn't be on because it had been almost a month and Melissa has not seen her father. And so, because Melissa lives by herself, and so we knew it may be the last time we will ever see him or hear him, And so we did the conference call, and the doctor says, we don't have much time. And I said, okay. And I looked at him and I said, honey, I love you, I want you to know that I love you. And that if I was to do it, I would do everything in my power to make sure that you come back home to me, and come back home to me safely. I would rather do all that I can to make sure that I did everything I can for you than to know and to live with the guilt that I could have done something and I never did it for you. So I want you to look at me, and I want you to tell me that you understand that. And I want you to look at me, and I want you to know that I love you, And he looked at me. Like Christina says, when her father looked at all of us, she says, Mom, when I look at Dad, I knew that Dad knew he's not coming home. And she says, Mom, it broke my heart. Because
He knew.
he knew. And so, they did his, and then that was like Saturday afternoon when they did it. And the doctor called me and he says, your husband's breathing is better now, and he's doing very well. And usually when the doctors don't call you, you don't worry much because you know that he's okay. When they start calling you every 45 minutes to every half an hour,
yeah,
you know that it's not good. So they call me at 7 that night, that Saturday night, and they say he's not doing well. Have we thought about what to do with him, And I said, no, I cannot just give up on my husband.
mm-hmm.
I want you to try to do everything you can to help me save him. Then when you've done everything and exhausted everything, then I can say that we did all that we could for him. Then they call me again at 7:45. He's not doing well. 8:45, he's not doing well. 9 o'clock, he's not doing well. 10 o'clock, he's not doing well. Then at this time, we spoke with all the brothers, and I say, we're going to put him on comfort care. By 12 o'clock, 12:30, they say he's not doing well. We're going to put something in here, and it's almost his time, and, go hand goodbye to him. Say you'll feel well.
That's what the doctor said to you.
Yeah, because he doesn't have much time. And I say, well, I have not seen my husband for 3 weeks. I need to see him. And he says, we can only allow one person. And at this time, my father-in-law was still in the hospital on his second hospitalization, and my mother-in-law came home. And I said, Mom, Ying's not going to make it. She says, I want to go see him. And I said, my mother wants to come. And the doctor goes, no, we can only have one person. And I said, Mom, you can't go because you don't speak the language, and it would be a struggle for you. Let me go. And then my mother-in-law fainted. She just went blank, and she fell. She hit her head on the chair, and then my daughter Christina was holding her, and my son Alex. And I said, I have to take a shower. I have to clear my mind before I go, or I will lose it. And as I was getting ready to go, this was at 2 a.m. Alex says, Mom, let me go with you. And, they were just going to let Alex sit in the car and while I wait. And because Nitu, his doctor, was India, I said, how important it is for the first son,
yes,
to see
his
father. And I said, please give my son that chance, because he has never seen his dad. And you know how children grow up and they don't understand the love of the father or the mother, yeah. And you just have so much regret, things that could have been said that wasn't said, or, like relationships that could mend that was just misunderstood. So he talked to them, and they say, yeah, well, let him see your husband, but he cannot go in, so he can just be at the window. I said, we don't care. That would be fine. He just wants to see his dad. So they said, well, he doesn't have much time. So I went in, and this was like at 2:30 we got there, and they said, you can go in. And I said, well, is it almost his time? They're like, it's soon. And I said, my husband, his fear was dying and not having somebody be there with him. And I said, I have told him that I will never let him close his eyes or go without holding his hand. He will never be alone. And I said, I don't want to be here when he's not gone. I want to see his last breath. I want to see my husband take his last breath. So he went to talk to the head of the nurse. And they were talking, and the nurse came back, and the doctor came back, and he says, you know what? Let us prepare him. Let us make him comfortable, and you can come back. So we went downstairs to the first floor to wait. And we were actually down there for almost 2 hours while they were getting him ready. And then they finally called me back upstairs, like at about almost maybe 4:30ish. And so I went in there. I got gown up and, gloved, mask. I went in, and at that time, his heart, everything, all his organs were filling.
Yeah.
But when I went in, he was so cold when I went to touch him. And I have known that he was crying because I can see the salt, the tears on his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I wiped it away, and he was so cold. And I went and I touched him, and I said, honey, I'm here. I want you to know that I'm here and you are not alone. And I said, if God is willing and he is willing to bring you back to me, I go over to Chao, I praise him for his mercy. But if it is your time to go and God has called you home, I thank God for the mercy that he's shown you. And so I prayed with him. We sing. I held his hand. I cried. And, when I got done singing, praying with him, and holding him, he warmed up, actually. And his heart rate went back up. And even his breathing went up for a while. And instead of just the 30 minutes that the doctor says he had, I think I was there for almost 2 hours, or a little bit over 2 hours. Because when he died, when he took his last breath, it was like 7-something in the morning, Sunday morning. And so when he took his last breath, I came home and, I realized that if I did not see him, I would never realize that he's gone. Because it's so important as among family, is that, when I had my husband's funeral, it was not a funeral. It was just very blah, 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 like 3 hours. I didn't even really get a chance to grieve. I didn't really get a chance to, mourn him because, at the same time, my father-in-law was sick. My mother-in-law was so depressed because that's her son. And to watch him go before her, it was just so much for her that she broke down, and they both broke down. We couldn't even tell my father-in-law that my husband was dying. But at the very last moment before he took his last breath, my brother Wang Fu says, I think you should let Dad know. Maybe he's just waiting for Dad because he's not going. So I finally called my brother Ku, and Ku finally called the nursing station and told the nursing station that, my dad is, my brother is dying and he's at the very last breath, and maybe he's just waiting for my father-in-law and my father, and can you go to his room, so that when we give him the news or when he's on the phone to say goodbye to my brother, that he doesn't faint or doesn't fall. So the nurse says, yes, I will go over there. And then my brother-in-law called, so we put it on I had it on my cell phone. So I said, honey, this is Dad, he wants to talk to you. So my father-in-law wasn't even aware where he was at that moment. And then when I say, Dad, Zhou Yang is leaving, I think he's just waiting for you to say goodbye to him. And, my dad says, my father-in-law goes, ilo o tu na ya, kamo kanda, inu te nya ye yomo nya ka yomo ka ku yomo kuna. Tsukatai te kamo, tsukatai te ku yomo e iyo chichakan shipu na ya. And that was the hat so auto tsukeka auto lo or tituna. So my father spoke a little bit about the life that they have together. They share as father and son. And then when he finally got to the last word where they were going to go separate ways, my husband took his last breath. And that was it. So it was like, because my father-in-law, my mother-in-law has always lived with us. And so my husband was very close to his parents. And even when he was sick and he was in the hospital, he always called. The first thing he would ask is, how is Mom and Dad? So it was like he was just waiting to say goodbye. And so when that happened, he took his last breath and the doctors came. They, removed all the machines, and I watched him, and then they cleaned him up and they took him, and then we came home. And so I never truly grieved. So to lose someone like that, you don't have time to grieve. And when you do the funeral, it's so fast. And, that's why Hmong people always have the last meal. And because I didn't have that for my husband, I always feel that he just went on a long vacation and that he's coming home sometimes. Or that, I'm expecting him to come through that door anytime. That loss is something that you can't comprehend, or something that you just, it's like a dream that you're not awakened. That he's taking some sort of long vacation and that he's due to walk back into your life. And I was telling my mom, I said, Mom, Jen went to Korea for a whole year. And I said, this year I'm going to do my husband's life celebration because I need closure. And if I don't do that, I don't have closure.
Now, was he vaccinated or not vaccinated?
No, because it was so early that vaccination was not even available.
That's true.
And people don't understand. They say, why do we live in fear? We don't live in fear because of COVID. You know, COVID has taken someone we loved away. And we know the severity of what COVID can do. You know, we're not in fear because we're afraid of dying. We're not in fear of dying. We're just in fear that something will happen to someone they loved and they will go through what we went through. You know, it's the experience of what we went through that we never want people to go through. And people don't see that.
Now, that happened in 2020.
2020.
2021 vaccine came out.
Yes.
And so do you think I'm assuming.
Our whole family is vaccinated.
I'm assuming if your husband was vaccinated, do you think he would have been okay?
Yeah, I believe so. Because my mother-in-law, my father-in-law are okay. And, you know, my daughter, Melissa, just had COVID like a week and a half ago, and she's fine.
Listen, whoever's listening, I know everybody has a choice, right?
They do.
They have a choice, right?
Yeah.
We live in America where if you choose to be
Yeah.
vaccinated or not vaccinated,
Yeah.
right? But in your experience, what would you say to them?
You know, I would say that we vaccinate not just to protect ourselves, but to protect our loved ones. We wear masks not just to protect us, but to protect them. Because there is no reason why somebody should lose a father, a husband, a son-in-law, a friend, a co-worker, a neighbor. It's ridiculous.
You know, we can go on and on about the whole COVID thing, and who knows how long it's going to stay with us. But I think the lesson that you're sharing, and the lesson is that cherish the moment with your loved ones. Get vaccinated, not for yourself, but for others.
Yes.
You know, because you're rolling the dice. You
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen.
No, you don't.
You know,
And you know, tomorrow is not guaranteed. But if you can do it for one person, your mother, your father, your granddaughter, your grandson, your children, why not?
this has been a great conversation with you, Nyanza.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I think we can go on and on and on about it, and like you said, but will you come back?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll find something to talk about.
Sure.
Maybe something a little bit more upbeat.
Sure.
Something about cooking. You know, I was thinking, and I know I want to end off on a happy note.
You know, something about cooking, something I'm passionate about, a service, you know, or even life as a mother, life as a daughter-in-law, you know, because we have 4 generations in our family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have even though my husband's gone, my in-law still lives with us. There's me, then there's our children, and then our my grandchildren.
Yes.
You know, so there's life continues, or you know, being a grandma. You know, because my children, my grandsons and my granddaughter, my grandson one and my granddaughter, they bring me so much happiness, and I think they are the glue that binds both my mother-in-law and me, you know, and our family together, because, you know, they brought us so much joy. That's why
Yeah.
joy.
Well, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I'll have you come back. We'll find something else, something more upbeat to talk about. Maybe we
Sure.
can touch back based off of religion. I have Pastor Yang coming in a few weeks, and I'm going to have these series of religious conversation, and I want to have a deeper conversation with him,
Sure.
with his experience. I'm sure you know about it. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on this emotional roller coaster. I'm not sure how it was for you, but it was for me. If you've had someone that that COVID had affected, please comment below. Talk to someone. Get vaccinated. I know everybody has a choice, but our recommendation is obviously to get vaccinated. And so, if you like what you hear, please share with someone, comment below, click that notification button. Thank you, everybody.